What can you say about Paul? Well, this is what I'm going to say about him. Paul is truly one of the true artists of our time, one of the true greats of our time, one of the most creative, humorous human beings that I know.
So in school, he had this thing for art, and while sketching, I think one day he was right at the back, sitting on his seat, and he was sketching the teacher, and he got caught with it. So that's how his passion for art started, and he didn't look back. It just went on from there.
You're also an amazing storyteller, and out of that comes the humor that goes with his, with his works.
For Bangalore, he's actually a historian, a very interesting kind of historian who's using cartoon to actually speak about the past, its values, its interests, its shared commitments, its cosmopolitanism, its oddities, and so on.
I think these drawings that you see here started about, say, 10 or 15 years ago, when, there was talk of our old house. It was a huge compound with 40 trees growing in it, fruit trees. And so was the neighbor's house, and all the houses down that road were pretty much the same. In Richardstown, there was talk of it coming down, and a new high-rise apartment block was meant to come there. And when that happened, I looked around and I found so many other lovely old houses falling down so fast, And I looked at them more closely and admired them for their lovely lines and beautiful proportions, and started drawing them for myself.
Paul Fernandes' cartoons are about satire on the one hand. It's about a tongue-in-cheek view of many things that Bangalore is often proud of. It is also, because of that, because it is a satire, is also a window to the world in some sense.
Mario Miranda has done this for his own Goa, and I was waiting for someone to do it for Bangalore. And Paul Fernandes has done just that.
He might mix up details in history, that's quite likely. So there might be a 1950s and 1970s, and 1970s and 1980s and so on. But there is this deep sense of the past that he has. It, in many ways, records a time that people don't actually often hear about or even grasp in complete detail. So for Bangalore, he's actually a historian, a very interesting kind of historian who's using cartoon to actually speak about the past, its values, its interests, its shared commitments, its cosmopolitanism, its oddities, and so on.
In this present time, I don't think anybody has documented Bangalore, pretty much every nook and corner of old Bangalore, as far as Paul has done, okay? And as you can see, the amazing detail, the amazing clarity actually takes most of us old Bangaloreans back in time.
I find traveling anywhere is very, very helpful and conducive to the mood I need to draw. And whenever I see something that's stood the test of time of 100 years, I stop to admire those things, because you tend to look at things you've never looked at before. You tend to admire the architectural values of a place, the greenery around those places. You look at the way people were when they lived around those places in those days. And you get to talk to a lot of people about those very interesting times, which are now becoming duller and duller in your memory. So the trick is to recall these things in many different ways. I don't think I have any one favorite. they all go together to produce, a time in Bangalore. But I must say that I spent a lot of time on the first few drawings to understand what I wanted to do. This was the first drawing of this series of drawings. And I used to walk down the road and come across and sit on M.G Road across and watch life going by. So one fine day, I was sitting opposite the Plaza Theatre and it was dusk and it had a beautiful light shining on it. And at that point I remembered a story told by an aunt of mine, She had taken her family there to see this movie Gone with the Wind. And they came out at midnight and found their 4 tires of the car gone with the wind. So, the humor of that story with this beautiful lit building just made me want to draw it, and that was the first drawing.
Now this is from our old school, okay? This is Bishop Cotton's where I studied and spent all of my school days, right? And this, of course, is the famous Koshis, yeah, and...
I particularly like one cartoon that shows a car which is propped up on some stones or something because the wheels have been taken off outside Plaza Theatre, and you can see that the security guard is fast asleep. People are inside watching the second show, and at the corner of the painting you can see a chap who has removed all those wheels and is wheeling them out somewhere to sell them in what Bangaloreans used to call the gujali. So, appropriately, the movie that's playing is Gone with the Wind. You can make that out from the poster. So I thoroughly enjoyed that cartoon.
So my favorite is a set of them, where he actually begins with a cartoon from the past, which is titled A Pensioner's Paradise. And it goes on to showing us BRV much later as something with a very, very different outlook. So a series of 4 or 5 cartoons constituted for me a very, very interesting together, in a way that spells a past that many of us may have forgotten. So I don't think if I have one single painting or one single cartoon, not just painting, but one single cartoon that is beautiful, but the fact that these can be stitched together and shown as a kind of progress of Bangalore from a particular moment in history to the current times is very interesting.
I really like the people in Paul Fernandes' paintings because they all seem to be they all seem to be just having fun. There's this woman in this blue silk frock that I'm assuming, look at her just around, she's cycling, and the busman is just going mad because she's not moving out of the way. And then there's some dog here which is coming under her cycle, and then she is coming under the bus tires, and all these ducks and random birds are just walking off. I find that very fascinating in these paintings, that there's always people doing their own thing. I tried to look for people in the bus whose faces I couldn't see, but you can see everybody's face on the bus. This man seems to be singing something at the top of his voice, even when they're just going to meet with an accident. And most of his paintings are like that. Someone is always going to fall into a puddle or going to come under the car or something. So that I really like. One student pointed out that in most of his paintings there's always a pool of water somewhere, and that it usually shows the reflection of someone. And then I went and looked back, it was true. Here, look at this pool of water here also. And you can never identify the source of where this water is coming from. It's just there on the road.
So my favorite illustration, what Paul has done, is the underbridge, because I've grown up in this part of town and I've seen the ducks during Christmas time, waddling around that side, and now I can connect so beautifully, but back then I didn't. But now with Paul's illustration I can connect. They've come 100 kilometers away, and by the time they reached here they were really skinny ducks.